let's go. So what I want to look at is just the something the end of the Mishkan. The end of the I understand a little bit about what's really happening there. Jen, are you able to hear us? Okay. So if you go to Perek Lamed Tet, Pasuk Lamed Bet of Shmot, I'll tell you now the page. 532. 532. It says, sorry, Lamed Bet, sorry, 534. Sorry. Shouldn't have questions you up there. Apologies. Okay. So it says there, it says, Vateichel kol avodat Mishkan Ohel Moed, that the work of the Mishkan Ohel Moed was completed. Yasu b'nei Israel kol asher tzva Adonai et Moshe kenasu. And Bnei Israel did everything that Moshe commanded them, Hashem commanded Moshe to do. Kenasu, they did it. Okay? Kenasu, they did. So they did whatever Hashem had told them. Well, I wouldn't have done that. Imagine, Hashem tells you to do X and you do Y. Never ever do that, right? Never ever happen, of course. But here's a Mishkan. This is a building. It's a structure. So if it's a building, it's the way of that Hashem has told them this is what He wants. And that's not like us. They're out there on that level. So why would it be that that you wouldn't have them not doing what Hashem told them? So that's a question number one. The question number two is, what's the Torah trying to tell us? Even if we know that they would have done it, but why does that have to emphasize it again? So listen to this. So there's the Al-Shikh. The Al-Shikh, so if you remember, in the time of the early 1500s, there were all these unbelievable Talmidei Chachamim that came from Spain, but they lived where? In Tzfat. They were kicked out of Spain, and they all moved to Tzfat. So they're Yosef Karo, the Al-Shikh, the Arizal, all these unbelievable people, all living together. So one of them is the Al-Shikh, Moshe Al-Shikh. So he says the following, so that even HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us when we're trying to do mitzvahs. There's a certain, we call Siyata Dishmaya, right? Siyata Dishmaya. So Hashem helps us when we're trying to do mitzvahs. Ma'aleh HaKadosh Baruch Hu ala osek ba. Ki'ilu hu as'a kula. Even though Hashem helps us, and the only reason we're able to do what we're able to do is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it for us, effectively. Nonetheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ascribes the success of that project to who? The person who's doing it, not him. Minay, Bavadat Mishkan. In the working of the Mishkan, Lo Yisrael became the Malacha. The Jews were builders. It's an amazing thing to watch builders. They take bricks, make a brick on the brick, and that's what they do. They were slaves for 86 years. They were slaves. They didn't know the finer arts of needlework. So if that's the case, what were they? They weren't experts, nonetheless. So the whole Mishkan, in all its small, tiny, unbelievable detail, which by the way is an important thing in the Al-Shikh. The Al-Shikh is saying that despite the detail Bnei Israel were able to achieve, which they weren't really experts in, the Torah considers it that Bnei Israel did everything. Kenasu, they did. It's quite a beautiful thing to understand that we get the credit and Hashem does the work in everything that we do. I was like, exactly, it should be because Hashem does the work, so He should get the credit. But He's not interested in the credit. He's interested in getting that which He wants done, and so therefore He assists us to ensure that we get that which needs to be done. Sorry, I have a double word. Okay, could be more erudite. But He assists us in getting it done, but He doesn't take the credit. Okay, He wants us to take the credit. For whatever reason, we need to take that credit. Okay. There's a whole discussion of what it's all about, but I'm not going into that rush. What I do want to look at is this is understanding that this is not the first time that we see that somebody does what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says they need to do, and they get the credit. And for sure they get Siyata D'Shma. So where do we find the first time? The first time. First time in the Torah. That someone's told to do something, they do it, and it said that according to what Hashem told them to do, they did. Same word. Kain asu, kain asa, whatever the case. The first time we find is with Noah. The Torah says, Vayas Noach kol asher tzivatu Elohim, kain asa. Now we know that there's no way in a million years that Noah would have known what to do on his own without Siyata D'Shma to create this taiva. It would contain everything. He's not a carpenter. Nobody doesn't say that Noah was a carpenter. He was a guy, he was a farmer. How do we know he's a farmer? Because the first thing he does when he comes out of the taiva is he plants. Now, you always revert back to your thing. So that's the first thing he does. Okay. So the Ramban on that says that what he that Noach gathered, he built the taiva, he gathered all the food, and it says Kain Asa, he did it, even though we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was helping him all the time. But then the Ramban adds in a few words that gives us something very important to understand. Because remember, when all the Mefarshim speak about similar wording, then you have to extrapolate what they're saying about the one thing into the next thing as well. So nothing's in isolation. It's always you can just continue that way. So he says, Leva Ered comes to explain. He peeled davar, he called Asher Tiva. He didn't drop one iota of what he was commanded to do. Talking about Noah. If that's the case, says Nechama Leibowitz, must be the same here. That the Torah is telling us that in this case, he peeled davar, that they didn't leave anything else in the building of the Mishkan. Okay? Then she quotes another passage. Talking about the Korban Pesach. Same thing. Hashem told them what to do with the Korban Pesach. And Israel did exactly what Hashem commanded Moshe and Aaron. Kain asu, which means that they didn't leave anything out. Which means that they did everything that they had to do. They did everything with Hashem helped them. Remember, there's big help there. Because the Korban Pesach is the God of the Egyptians, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't let the Egyptians touch them. Right? So says the Ramban, immediately after Moshe and Aaron told them what to do to go and get the Korban Pesach, they went out to their flocks, Pesach, and they immediately take the Korban Pesach. Why does they say that they didn't leave anything out? And there the Ramban here at this point in time says, and we see it in Noach, and we see it in our parsha today. So they didn't leave anything out, which means the Ramban is asking a question. Well, he's responding to a question. Somewhere there is a supposition of sort that maybe they would have left something else. Why would they leave something else? Goes back to right at the beginning. Can I say, why would they leave something else? So think about it carefully. What are they doing? What are they? In the case of Noah, he's building a table, right? He's building this thing. Why? Because Hashem says, I'm going to bring rain. Right? Why would you think he might leave something else? He's in a rush. He doesn't know when the rain's coming. He knows it's going to come. He knows there's going to be a flood. Let me get this thing done. Let me bring everything in. I leave out a little piece of wood there. What's the real difference is that going to make? But that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to do. With the Korban Pesach, why would they maybe leave anything out? Because they're so excited. It's the first mitzvah that they're ever going to do. Remember, Bnei Israel have, at this point in time in the tribe, it's a nice idea, by the way, I should say that. Bnei Israel are about to do the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah that they're given is Rosh Chodesh. HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. Rishon hu lemikra Chodesh. That's what it says. It doesn't say what Rosh Chodesh is. There was no one, there weren't people running around saying, oh, look, now there's Chodesh, let's go to the Beis Din. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, this is Rosh Chodesh. He gives them the mitzvah, but there was no action involved. What's the real mitzvah? The real mitzvah is the Korban Pesach. That's the first thing that comes before they have to, I don't think they kasher their house. Not so sure about that, right? Okay, but the first real mitzvah they did, real mitzvah, a proper mitzvah is Korban Pesach. Imagine how excited they are. And in excitement, we all know that we somehow lose our consciousness and our clarity. Happens on me. And a certain amount of rush. There's everything's there. Right? You can see about the Simchas Torah, right? The excitement of the dancing and all that stuff. We also do it for the clarity. Right? And for him, we lose what we're supposed to be thinking and what we're supposed to be feeling. So that being the case, says the Ramban, I want to emphasize, it's exactly what they have to do. The Netziv comes and he says something along those lines. He says the following, Bnei Israel was so desirous of having HaKadosh Baruch Hu back within them. Remember, he was there, Egel HaZahav, pulled himself out, Moshe has got the tent outside the camp, the angel is the thing that's looking after them, it's no longer like this direct relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They want Hashem back so much, so you might say that the reason why they went and they did everything according to the way Hashem told them to do it was why? Because they wanted Hashem back in their midst. No, that's not the reason they did it. They did it because that's what Hashem told them to do. It wasn't because of them. Because that's what Hashem said. It's an unbelievable musa, actually. We don't do what we do because we want the reward of having Hashem being there. We do what we do because that's what Hashem says. That goes back to Pirkei, right? Don't do the mitzvah in order to get the reward. Just do the mitzvah. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy, right? Sometimes you just want to you just want to get the reward, not undo the mitzvah. But it is what it is. So that's what the Netziv says, and he says, understand that the pasuk says this is what Hashem said they must do, and then the honor of Hashem appears within them. So we know that in Israel we have a number of cases where we find the Jewish people having this desire to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Nadav and Avihu. Even the Egel HaZahav was a desire to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all part of a positive space. They just messed it up, right? And it quotes from Parshat Korach and other places that they just kind of messed up, and therefore, when it says Kain Asu, it means that they did according to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though they may have felt they wanted to do something different. It wasn't driven by their ava, it was driven by their yira. In life, there are two sides of the coin. We have to have both, and the Swanam Rebbe speaks about this at length in many places. In our avodas Hashem, you have to have avat Hashem and you have to have yirat Hashem. And avat Hashem is a far, far higher level than yirat Hashem. Okay, it's a higher level. But if you don't have the yirat Hashem, you have nothing. Because the avat Hashem is this thing that allows us to have this huge expanse of connection. But Hashem doesn't want a huge expanse of connection. He's got a structured connection. You know, it's like when a person, I don't know why this comes up in my head. When a person's in Avelus, it's a terrible thing to be in Avelus. Right? Somebody passes away, and now you're shattered. I remember my sister passed away, like it was terrible. So how are you supposed to respond? So there's a whole structure of how to respond. Right? And the things you are allowed to do and the things you're not allowed to do. But why I'm sad, why do I have to have a structure? Because that's part of what it is. To be a Jew means you live within a structured space on every single level. When you're in a simcha, even simchas have structures. You know, a wedding has a structure. It's not just like some random thing. There's a structure. There's a thing you do, whatever you do, everything has structure. But at the same time, the ava is enabled within the structure. And that's what Islam says. The more structure you have, the more ahava you can create. The less structure you have, then the ahava dissipates. It's not real. It's not about avat Hashem. It's about love for myself. You know, I can't remember who it was. He used to say, you know, like, don't say you love chicken. No one loves chicken. Okay, you love the taste of chicken, right? That's what you love. You know, like like we can love our children, right? Sometimes we don't, but we love our children. Okay, but you can't love chicken because you love your children because they're your children. I don't love your children because you know how you get. So no, They're so amazing, you know. It gets all these awards, therefore I love my children. And when they don't get the award, they're like, I don't love them anymore. Right? That's our value. Right? But so it has to be, it's got to be about the relationship, not about the thing. Okay, chicken's about the thing, and children's about the relationship. That's also the same with Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's got to be about the relationship, and the relationship demands structure. Says the thing. Then there's an Orach Chaim HaKadosh, which I want to just share with you, and he says a very important thing. Who built the Mishkan? Yeah, so and Ahliah, right? So why does it say not say that in the pasuk? The pasuk says, "Vataycha kol avot hamishkan al moed ve'yasu bnei Yisrael." Go Hashem tzivam, Hashem et Moshe can asu. There's bnei Yisrael did everything. I mean, that bnei Yisrael didn't do anything. This one did this, and this one did this, and this one did this. Like the Tzalel and Ahliah put the whole thing together, right? So how come it says bnei Yisrael? Yasu bnei Yisrael. Okay, say better than that. Because you're right, and you think that, but there's something even more than that. Because there's something that's so profound. It says the Orach Chaim, it says something beautiful. It says, even though the Tzalel and all the artisans really made it. You know, it's very nice. So, Rob, you donated your gold necklace, okay? And you donated your gold earrings. So you made the Mishkan. No, you didn't. You contributed to it. Right? Nonetheless, Shlucho Shal Adam Kamoto. There's a very fundamental halachic concept, which means that a shaliach, a messenger, a person who's doing it on behalf of you, is exactly as if you are doing it yourself. If you send somebody to do your mitzvah, that's why it's called Mishloach Manot, right? But send them with somebody, that person. Why? So you enable somebody else to do a mitzvah. Why is that so important to enable somebody else to do the mitzvah? You do, it's your mitzvah. Right? I give you my Mishloach Manot to give to your husband. Okay, then what happens? Who got the mitzvah? Okay, so why should you care? Why would you do it? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But why would you do it? Like, why are you doing my mitzvah? And why am I giving you to do my mitzvah? Surely it's better to do the mitzvah on your own. So the answer is because in Purim, we'll come back. In Purim, the whole concept of Purim is that Haman saw a people that were mufuraz and mufuraz, they were divided. So according to the simple level, they're everywhere, the Jews are everywhere. I was telling about Taylor yesterday, a friend of mine going to Mauritius, and he's going to be there over Purim. No, there's a Chabad. Even a Chabad in Mauritius. They're everywhere. The Jews are everywhere. So the Jews are everywhere. The Mafuraz and Mafuraz, they spread out. However, what Haman was saying, he was hitting at a certain weakness of the Jewish people, is that we separate them. So how do we undo the separation? By giving Mishloach Manot. You don't need me to bring you a piece of meat for your Seder. Right? Baruch Hashem. Right? But when I do, what happens? We create a relationship. Right? But when you do it for me, now instead of just being me and your husband, there's three people now involved in that relationship. And that's the whole point. Right? Shlucha Adam Kamosi. You are like me. But you're like me, meaning that you also have everything, all the relationships start working together. Okay, so that's what the Orach Chaim says. When it comes to B'Tzalel and these Kevra who were brilliant artisans, making it on my behalf, says if I made it myself, which is a fundamental. Only in Torah can you have such a system. Only in Torah that I've done that mitzvah by you doing it. That's like a Jewish thing. Okay. And therefore, even though B'Tzalel does it, the reality is everybody gets the reward. And then he says the following: "V'nireh dekan asa katuv machberet haklalot v'kiyum haTorah." Says in telling me that little concept and the whole idea that everybody did it and they did it all in the right thing with all the details, we're going to create a little booklet on what the Torah is all about. Okay, so you ready for the booklet? Quite interesting. Okay. The Jewish people are able to give merit to one another. You know, I'm going to do this in the schools of X, Y, and Z. It's bizarre. So I'm learning, I'm giving tzedakah, I'm doing a nice festival, I'm making a sandwich, and some other person who's got no clue about that I'm doing it is just like flying higher and higher and higher. It's bizarre. It's not really bizarre, because that's what we do. And the Torah is given to what? To be established. How? Through the community of the Jewish people, not through individuals. We don't keep Torah for ourselves. It's always someone else involved. When I do what I do, it's because I was taught by my parents, my teachers, or whatever, and they also get something a part of that as well. That's so important. And everybody's got to do whatever they can do, and in doing that, everybody gets the merit, appropriate merit for themselves, says the Orachai. He says, and maybe that's what it means. Okay, this is good. Letzachu kamocha. In the manner in which the person is like you, because let's try it. I'm going to try to do this properly. When you do good for another person, through him or her feeling or being in a space of shalom and being in a better space than they were before, you get the benefit. Through him or her being okay, you fulfill what you need as well. It's interesting. We always think you have to have doing everybody else. And that's why it's like you. When he does or she does get something from you, that space where they are feeling fulfilled is a space that you feel fulfilled as well. That's part of the concept. It's a very beautiful idea. Okay. And that's where we get now. When other people, right? When other people feel a sense of comfort because of something that I've done, why do we get nachas from our children? What did you do? They ran the 100 meters and they won the race, or they with the tree in the play, and they did it very well. Okay, and you got great nachas. All relative. Right? Why do you get nachas? You get nachas because there's an extension of you in that. Okay? Hashem gave us 630 mitzvahs. And in that, we've got 630 mitzvahs, right? Can you keep every one of them? No, impossible. So if I can't keep 630 mitzvahs, what's the point? So say, there's people like this, but we haven't. No one says, there's 277 mitzvahs for people living in South Africa, and if you're a Kohen, there's 283, and if you're a Levi, you've got a couple of extras here and there, but there's 630 mitzvahs. Why? Right? Because I can enable you to keep a mitzvah that I can't do. Right? I'll go my friend Lawrence Khan. Lawrence Khan is my friend since I was 3 years old. He's a Kohen. So he comes, sits around my table, and I give him to bench, to lead the benching. All of a sudden, he's being the Kohen, I'm being himself. Wow, there we go. I've empowered him. I get nothing. Something happens to me. Not only him, happens to me. That's what he wants to say. Kohen b'Levi Yisrael v'Nashim yesh mitzvot v'Kohanim she'en mitzvot Yisrael v'Asatan. So the mitzvot v'Kohanim we've got the Jews can't, the normal Jews can't do, and the ones that Yisrael can do that the Kohanim can't do, and the Leviim and the women, and everyone's got their own mitzvot. ומה מציאת יש ליחיד לקיים כדי להשלים תיקון לרמת עבירה שגדל אשר יכוונו להם? So there's a problem with it. But 630 mitzvahs, right? Why? You've got 365 limbs and 248 sinews. So if I've got 365 limbs, 248 sinews, and I can only keep 320 of the mitzvahs, what happened? The rest of my body falling apart. Maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure, but okay. She says, you know what it's all about? The Torah is to be kept in community. And then I merit to you, and I merit from you. It's a beautiful idea. But who Mash Amar Akativ, and that's why it says, Yasu b'nei Yisrael Kvarashit Hashem, that b'nei Yisrael did everything that Hashem said. Kina lukulam yaschad masei kulam, that it attributes what everybody did to everybody. Hagam shemahem ebiu hanadava, even those who just bought their gold chain and their gold chain. Everyone can do it. Because without the whole, you don't have anything. Mahem asu malachah, there are those who did the malachah, there are those who gave things, there goes this, he goes the whole story. And that's why he says, and therefore, all the Bnei Israel, all of Bnei Israel bought all the specific number of articles that were required in order for the Mishkan to be brought. Therefore, they all merit each other and merit from each other, and therefore, everybody did. So it's a beautiful concept there for us to take as the end of Shmot comes, and that is that we have the ability to merit each other, but more importantly, to merit from one another. And sometimes we forget that. I can do a lot for you, but I can also get a lot from you. By empowering you to do what you need to do, I benefit as well. Sometimes we forget that we are allowed to benefit. We are allowed to benefit. Okay, so let's look, where do we see something of that nature in the Megillah? Sure, pleasure. When you pass on, you're always judged by merit of other people. So you've taught your daughter, stupid example, to light Shabbos candles. So every single time she will light Shabbos candles, that's in your sis, both alive and dead. It's quite an amazing thing that no matter what, as long as somebody's doing something that I taught them or that you taught them, then you're always getting benefits out of it from somewhere, somehow. That's why there's that whole idea. You can save a life on Shabbos because that person will, you destroy that one Shabbos, why? So there'll be many more Shabbos. So now you can then the positive, you teach one word of Torah, why? So there'll be lots more words of Torah that constantly exist. It just goes on from all generations. Which is why I saw interesting, okay, I don't think I'm going to get to Megillah, but it's fine, we'll do Megillah on the side. It says about Betzalel. It says Betzalel bin Uri bin Hur, and I'll tell you that. Betzalel came from the tribe of Yehuda. His grandfather was Hur. Who was Hur? Hur was the one who was killed, right? Well, he did two things to him. Firstly, he's the one who held up Moshe's hands when they were fighting against Amalek, right? So he said, okay, so he held up his hands, like, what's the big thing? Well, nobody else did. It was him and Aaron. You can imagine the person. This person, Hur, is the right-hand man of Moshe, or left-hand man, whatever it is. He's a very special human being. Okay, number one. Number two, what does he do? He's the one who is killed when he's trying to stop the Egel HaZahar. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but to try and understand. It's always with Aaron. It's always with Aaron. He's holding up the hands, and now he's trying to stop the Egel HaZahar, which is Aaron's like nemesis. But anyway, so he dies. What happens to Hur? Dead, gone, finished, killed by the masses. Okay, but he's got a son, Uri. Right? What happens to Uri? We have no idea. Nobody knows anything about it. All we know is that he has a son called Betzalel. Betzalel and Uri ben Hur. So I saw from one of the Mefarshim asked, so I'm like, why didn't the reason why Betzalel becomes Betzalel is because he comes from Hur. Right? He's the grandson of Hur. But the obvious question is, that's great. What about the son of Hur? Why doesn't the son of Hur get the benefit of his father's unbelievable actions of Mesiras Nefesh? Because sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the child will get, sometimes the grandchildren will get. We don't know who's going to benefit from the work that we do in our lives in this world for the Kavod HaShem. In this case, it's Betzalel. Other times, it's others. We just don't know. And so to answer your question, that's where you see the spin-off. That even in the second generation, you have a person like Betzalel who comes from the serious nefesh of Hur. And it's always attributed back to Hur. Betzalel is very important. Never speaks about him on his own. Right? Salab is the reason for that's whenever it gives him his title, that's what it is. Why? Because Fur is always the reason for it. So anything that the Salab does goes back into the miracle. I think that I hope that answers your question. Okay. Okay. Should we stop there, ladies? Cheers, Jan. And whoever else was there? Who else was there?
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Have
Nice
a
to
great
have you
day.
back.
Thank you.
Cheers,
God
Liv.
bless.
Nice
Have a
to
good
see you.
day. Thank
You too.
you.
God bless, guys.